All right, so check this out. Soundflow. I'm kind of freaking out. I've had some time. This is a quarantine project for me, I guess. But I've found some really cool little workflows and things that you can create in an application called Soundflow. And Soundflow itself is $10 a month, and it essentially comes with a bunch of pre-built, sort of like you can kind of do this with Yukon, right? Where you can make little macros, make little workflows to speed up your life in Pro Tools. But man, this one is really, really next level. As you can see, I'm using an iPad as my surface, but what I've made, these are all the plugins that I like, and I've got them on an iPad, and I can just click them open. It's amazing. And it's kind of a different thing, you know. Like I find I'm old enough to remember working in real studios, and you know, when you look over at the rack and kind of point like, patch me that one. You know, you kind of have this idea in your mind of the place you want to go with a sound or with an instrument, and I've found, maybe it's just me, but I've sort of found that it's a different experience, kind of pondering what you want to do and then having to go scroll through a menu rather than sort of looking at gear. And maybe you'll surprise yourself. Oftentimes, I find I do anyway. You know, maybe I just have a poor memory, but this really works out great for me. So that in itself would make me a million times just totally stoked. But then what I've made is I actually am using two iPads now. I only have one here now, but I split it. So my right iPad is compressors and EQs and grit, and then my left iPad is effects, delays, modulation, reverb. And then I made all these sort of workflows. These are all scripts that run. And you know, there's this sort of area here, which is a lot of stuff that's really good for surround mixing. Like I fight that surround mixer so hard. Like a simple thing, like I mean, I find myself really not using the surround panel much. I end up creating a bunch of like quad groups and mono sends for the center and the LFE and stuff, just because that surround panel is just too tricky and it defaults to where I don't want to be. Like I don't want centered 100% ever. Is the truth. So anyway, I made some buttons here that are just little scripts that, you know, I can select all my tracks. I can put the center to 0 as a starting place. Great. I can you know, rear panning and stuff. I've got a button here which there's always that thing where when you crack open a track output window, you've got to immediately go and click 3 little buttons, you know, so that all the little dots link correctly. Again, maybe it's just me, but I find myself doing that an unbelievable number of times per day. But I put that on a button, which I'm very excited about. But the big thing, the reason I'm making a video is to promote the thing, because I think Soundflow is amazing. This guy Christian is super quick to get back. He's the developer is very responsive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And he's made something really, really cool here. I think that from what I can tell, a lot of effects editors and dialogue editors especially are on board with this, but music guys, maybe not so much. You know, I think Andrew Sheps, I see him on the forums. He seems to be using it a bit. But I don't know how in the know some of us music guys are about this, and I'm just trying to pass it on. But the thing that I wanted to make the video about, the fundamental thing, is this workflow I made for making stems. So I work on films a lot these days, and you know, sometimes I giggle because I do feel like about 10% of my 20% of my work is making things sound good, and 80% is stemming cues and labeling the files and typing in timecode coordinates, and like it is a lot of just kind of like clerical work. And I've made a pretty decent dent in automating that right here. So I'm going to show you how this works. This is just a little test session I made. There's nothing to it. There's no audio. There's just blank files. It's just easy peasy, right? But this would kind of be like an example of maybe a really dumb rock song you might get. So I've got drums coming through a drum sub, got bass, guitars, solo, lead vocal, and background vocals. No big deal, right? So the buttons I've got here, though, this would be my workflow. I've got a button that clears all the muted clips on a track. I like to keep shit clean, and sometimes I get stuff with muted shit all over it. Maybe not a fan. Or it's nice to clean it up at some point anyway. And then I've got a button called hide empty track. So it just goes down each track, and if it finds a track with no audio in it, it hides it and makes it inactive. Especially stuff that I record, especially orchestral stuff and score stuff. I'll have more empty tracks than used ones, honestly. Like my template's just got a million audio tracks in it, and at some point at a mix stage, or at a like when I finally do my 5-1 mix or whatever, I've got to clear that stuff out. I got a button that does it. I'm very excited. But then, so in the case of this, oh, and then the other thing that we're assuming here is we're using a compressor on the 2-bus. So I'm not going to go on a whole rant about uh, how you stem a cue that's got compression on the 2-bus, but suffice to say, I've got a couple steps here that will make it so that your resulting stems are as if they're plucked from the compressed mix, like the compressor is doing the right thing while you're bouncing the stems out, and that's important. So the way to make that work is simplified a bunch with these buttons, where I would select everything going to the 2-bus this way. I would press a little button called send E to the key bus. That just made a send. Some of these are just key commands. Like, that's no big deal. That's nothing to get too excited about, but it's on a button, and I love buttons. My next step would be mix to send. That's just a couple key commands, but it put my volume and my pan and my mute automation up to this bus. I know I keep forgetting to automate this so it goes to pre-fade. Anyway, so now I've got a matching mix, an independent of soloed, matching mix going to a key bus, which I'm going to side chain my stereo bus compressor with, and that's going to make my stems correct. So that. And then the next step is using track folders. Like, I wasn't that excited about track folders when I first saw them come out, well, whenever that was, recently, until I realized how kick-ass they could be in this workflow. So I made a little script that creates stem folders. Okay, I'm going to pause. Yes.
Can you help me?
Yeah,
Send this to Donald Trump.
So I get a pop-up that says, how many stems would you like to create? Where are we here on this? Would it be 1, 2, 3, 6? So we'll say 6 stems. It's going to create me 6 stem folders. It's going to label them stem 01 through 06. And then a guy named Chris Shaw on the Soundflow forums made this cool thing, this part of the script, which moves all the resulting folders up. So I can choose top of session, or I mean, on a film, usually I would select, like, the tracks below my dialogue and my production audio. I'm getting long-winded. So I'm going to say top of session. Boom. And it moves them up and there. So then we're going to populate these stem folders with the elements that we want to have within each stem. So here's our drums. I got a button that says move to stem folder 1, bass to 2, guitars to 3, solo to 4, vocal to, oops, I meant 5, and then background vocals to stem 6. Okay, and then you'll see in a minute why, but then I'm going to comment the name of each thing in the stem folders. Guitars, lead, let's call it solo, lead vocal, and BBs, and that's it. You choose your tracks, you would highlight the distance of your song, and hit my button called bounce selected to stems, and this is my big script. So this is an offline bounce to disk. It pauses here, and you can make sure all your settings are correct in this window. But the big thing it does is that it names the thing for you. So it takes my session name minus, like, without the last segment. So you can have however many underscores you want, but the thing past the last underscore it won't take. And then it puts the time code, which is handy for film. And then for this first mix, it's going to say 2 mix because nothing will be soloed. It will just bounce the song. And then it will go through and do each stem, naming them the same thing, but rather than 2 mix, it'll be stem 01 drums, stem 02 bass, stem 03 guitar, etc., etc. So let's check it out. And there it goes. There was our 2 mix. Here comes our drums. There's our bass. As you enjoy your silver bullet. There you have it. There they are, some sort of nicely labeled and deliverable stems. I'm excited about this. Okay, bye.